Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hope you're doing well. Today we have Mashhood Alam with us. How are you, Mashhood?
I'm doing well.
So, Mashhood, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am living here for the last 25 years in the Bay Area on the East Bay side. I'm originally from Karachi. I did my bachelor's from NAD, then came to the States, did my master's, and then started my career as a software developer here at SAP Labs in Palo Alto. And since then, I've made my career over here.
What prompted you to shift to US from Karachi?
Well, just to get exposure to where things are happening, learn more,
Mhm.
and then contribute from a builder perspective rather than just a consumer and implementer perspective. So that was one of the key things. So when I found the opportunity to do my master's over here, I grabbed on it and learned a lot. And then luckily was able to find an opportunity to start building software for enterprise here in the valley.
Awesome. So, when I was going through your profile and your website, you've mentioned a lot of innovation, technology. In your opinion, when you're thinking of something that's unique and can be called innovative, what does that vision look like to you? How do you transform that vision into a reality with people who are often not understanding of that concept?
Well, to me, I kind of, being an engineer from my trade, I use one equation to explain what innovation is. So innovation is creativity times execution. So creativity is when you are bringing novelty to solve a problem, finding the problem, and execution is actually how you solve the problem for better use. And so if you're able to bring the two together, I think that's where innovation happens, which essentially could be focused on improving a process, even removing inefficiencies from the processes, bringing new experiences to life, leveraging new technologies. What the way I kind of think about innovation is not necessarily focused on technology, but how can the technology help solve a problem in the real world? That problem could be used by a user, a person, or businesses in general. So finding and solving the problems are more important. And that's where innovation comes in. So it could take many different forms.
There's a buzzword that goes on around a lot called design thinking. Most of us do not know what that exactly means. Can you shed a little bit light on that?
Sure. So design thinking, if you do a quick search, you'll find a bunch of material. It started gaining traction in mid 2000s, especially when the iPhone, first launch of iPhone kind of came in 2007. That actually did a paradigm shift in terms of what the experience expectations from the users and starting on the business side also happened. What that meant is before that event, um, people were expected to learn the system complexities to be able to operate those systems. And after that event, um, it essentially changed the paradigm that the systems have to cater to the user needs, human needs. And that's where design thinking comes into play. So the first word that is really stressed in design thinking is empathy. Empathy is with a person who is actually going to be the beneficiary of the solution. So the same context can change it. So, for example, if I ask you what is the best way to go from San Francisco to LA, or let's say from Karachi to Lahore, there could be several different answers, but really depends on who the user is. So, for example, if I have a meeting in LA in the afternoons, I can take an early morning flight and come back the same day. If I want to take my family, then probably I'll take my minivan and then have a good road trip over there. And then we have to book the hotels and get the tickets of the Disneyland and Universal Studios. Or if I have found a job over there which pushes me to move, then I have to hire a rental company, a moving company, a real estate company to really find a place to stay over there, find a school for my kids, etc. So the problem was the same, how to go from San Francisco Bay Area to LA, but the solution was totally dependent on who the person was, what was the context. That's the essence of design thinking. So focus on who are you solving the problem for? What is that person's context? And then you start looking at bringing technology, how to solve the problem, and then how to deliver business value. So if you think about desirability, tech feasibility, and viability, bringing it all together, that's what design thinking is all about.
I really love the point that you mentioned about having empathy because most of us do talk about empathy again as a buzzword, but it's very new and different to think about empathy in this perspective that you utilize it in technology. Could you give us an example of something that you have done where you applied that formula and transformed it into something that is very tangible for the users?
Absolutely. I mean, over the last 20, 25 years, that's what I've been like doing, essentially. So I'll give you two examples. One example is really how an experience was transformed. And then the other example was really identifying the problem part. So another part of design thinking is finding the right problem before you start solving it. So it was essentially the early stages right after the advent of the first iPhone. I was a product manager at SAP in supply chain execution area, and we wanted to solve problems for the transportation area. So essentially, we worked with the truck drivers who were using. Essentially, they had to call the dispatchers and then find the routes and all the other aspects. So I led the development of the first mobile app in SAP Focus for the truck drivers. So we actually worked with them to really build an app so that they can help get all the information rather than having to call the dispatcher all the time. So that actually helped solve that. And that app connected back into the SAP systems to really update the orders. The other one was I was part of I was leading a strategic engagement with the state government in US, and they had invited me back. We had first solved one of their analytics problems, but they invited me to solve procurement execution problem. So when I engaged with their business and technology leaders, I was leading a full day workshop. And in the beginning, we just laid out in the first hour what the procurement life cycle happens. We found out that procurement execution takes 1 week out of a 9 month cycle. So I asked them, what do you guys do in 8.5 months? And they said, well, we gather the requirements for procurement. So I said, well, even if I'm able to solve 20% of the procurement execution, we're saving 1 day. If I save 20% in the procurement requirements gathering, we're going to be saving more than a month. Wouldn't that make sense to really focus on that problem? And they all kind of said yes. They had never really thought about that from that angle. So we switched and pivoted to the focus of the engagement towards procurement requirements gathering rather than the initial stated problem of procurement execution. So these are two examples. Really honing in into the right problem to solve before you start solving it. And then the second part is grounding yourself into the user's need to solve the problems.
Has there ever been a time where you faced a challenge that you did not know the answer to? How did your personal vision help you there, and how did you get out of it?
Well, that pretty much nobody knows the answer, to be very honest. So the important part is to ask open-ended questions. Be dumb. You'd be surprised that in many, pretty much, if I look at my career, wherever I've asked them questions, I have
Mhm.
enlightened not just myself, but all the other people in the room as well. Because other people generally, they're operating under a lot of assumptions. What you want to do is cut through those assumptions to get to the essence of the problem. That essentially goes back to asking questions. Now, there is a way of asking questions. You can ask the questions to in a tone that challenges the other person, or you can have the tone of curiosity. I think adopt the tone of curiosity to ask the question. And when you ask the question, ask in an open ended manner rather than a binary answer. So that gives you more insights about what the real essence is. So I think that happens all the time.
Awesome. So our event is based on the idea of what's coming next. Literally, the theme is building the next decade. With the influx of AI apps, a lot of things, a lot of information is just flowing around, and people usually do not have an idea of what's correct, what's incorrect, how to figure oneself out. My question is based for people who are early career professionals. What advice would you give to them when they are going out there trying to explore, they're utilizing social media, internet, AI to study, to progress in their careers? How do they reduce the noise and actually figure out what really works and what's the necessary?
Well, my only advice would be to go out in the world and start looking for real world problems to solve. Um, the advent of technology it's no surprise, it's on an exponential curve. So in 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, the use cases are you're able to solve the same problem at half the cost or even lesser, right? And it's happening at a really fast pace. So the edge will be understanding what problem you're trying to solve. That's one part. Really focus on what problems, identifying what problem you want to solve, right? Now, as you identify those problem sets, think about it. How many people or businesses have that problem? If you solve, there's a good saying that if you want to be a billionaire, solve a problem for a billion people. Well, that's easier said than done. But once you start kind of focusing on that problem, leveraging technology is probably the easiest part. Now I think it's becoming easier. I was just this morning playing around with one of the vibe coding platform and built a small app within like half an hour. The important point will not be to build an app or use a technology, but the important point will be to solve the problem. And the more people or the businesses you're able to solve the problems, I think that's where you would be. The second part I would say is take action. Okay, you kind of go out in the real world, talk to people, understand what problems to be solved. How would you go about solving that problem? The speed of experimentation will determine who's going to succeed or not. So the faster you can start kind of addressing the problem, talk to those people who you think have the problem, understand, listen to them actively, and then the final thing is that be a voracious learner. I mean, you can learn formally or informally, reading books, meeting people, just be a learning machine. Learning and action while you're solving a problem. I think that's the key to success going forward. Other than that, I don't even know what the future holds. But if you are a voracious learner, if you can take action, if you can focus on solving problems, I think you'll do good for yourself.
So, product management is a field that can tend to be a little intensive for people. How would you maintain creativity, agility, and keep on moving forward in that environment?
I think product management, especially in the enterprise area, when you're working as part of the organization, and that's what my experience primarily has been. So I'll be more tilted towards that. It's more about influencing these stakeholders. What that means is that even if I am leading a business line or a product line, I cannot make progress unless I bring other stakeholders on board, understand all the other stakeholders. That is definitely engineering, user experience, operations, sales, marketing, you name it, right? Finance and sales. A lot of times the idea that your product requires involves change in the business model, which requires billing systems and finance and working with tax authorities if you want to have the global part of it. So you need to be able to have high emotional intelligence to really listen to the other person and start influencing other stakeholders, bringing them together to really help buy into your vision of the future that you have. And you want to like drive that forward. So the key part is that it's not just about a nice creative idea. It's how that idea will solve business problem, create value for the organization. That's going to be key. Now, if you're in a startup, now it depends on what is early stage of startup is. If you have not found your product market fit and you are like leading a product, the speed of experimentation will be key to find the product market fit. And then once you have found it, hopefully you're getting some funding as well and be able to scale quickly. So again, that will require reaching out to your users. So the focus is slightly different. In enterprise setting, it's more about really setting that vision, getting the buy-in from other stakeholders, influencing them. I think that's more about that. And the final part of product management is you can envision anything. Software will allow you to do anything. The important part is how can you focus your roadmap to the most important thing over the next 1 to 3 months, and then kind of learn from this and then iterate over it. So there's tons of that. So just keeping focus on how can you deliver value in a short amount of time while keeping the vision in mind and influencing others. That requires a lot of emotional intelligence, which is more important for product management than technical depth.
So talking about influencing others, who have been your biggest influence in your life?
Well, I would say my uncle, who is I found him very inspirational. I find him still very inspirational. So he had a clear vision for his life when he graduated from DMC to become a doctor, like in early 80s or something. But he didn't want to continue to be a doctor. He wanted to stay in Pakistan and then build a business over there. So he started the first business directory in Pakistan, the Yellow Pages. And now he's the chairman for it's a leading event organization, corporate event organization in Pakistan. And still at this point, I was talking to him last night as well. He has a lot of ideas to use AI to create value. Very optimistic. I learned a lot from him on storytelling and having a positive spirit all around and just looking at opportunities everywhere. So I think we need more of those. So that's my biggest influence.
I've seen you have so much experience, but with the advent of technology, the way it's current with the influx of AI, there's a lot of changes that are taking place. If you were to start your career now with all of the experience you have with the technology that's available, how would you go about it?
So as and I have this conversation in different social settings as well with my kids, with my kind of next generation kids and others, and they're kind of asking me similar kind of questions. The important part, the difference in 25 years back when I was starting my career versus now is that we could kind of go into one field, become expert in one domain, and then continue our career. I mean, now that is changing as well. And now I think what the next generation will face is they will not have one career. They will likely have five, six, or seven careers. So being adaptable is very important. You need to have the basic knowledge. So if you have engineering leaning, so kind of become great engineer, like semiconductors or computer engineering, whatever it is, the field you have, but become best at that, even if it's medicine. So you need to have that domain expertise. Getting real life experience to understand how that expertise is there to solve real world problems, I think that's going to be key because the domain expertise will continue to become more valuable. Now, getting that requires time. You really need at least 5 years of experience in that industry to have some level of in-depth understanding. So if you have the opportunity to do that, and if you are interested in doing that, you'll be able to do that. There is tons of, we have tens of thousands of startups on AI itself, and they're solving very small problems. And they are just one feature away from the large language model providers. They just wipe out hundreds of startups right away. So you need to be a little bit careful. Do that experimentation and learn from it and then evolve quickly. So if you can go deeper into one space which you are interested in, I think that's great. I think you should continue doing that. But if you have not identified that deep space, then the experimentation, talking to people, learning from others. But again, ask yourself, am I delivering value? Am I learning? And so the rate of learning will be important, and then rate of and the way tangibly delivering value will be key. So if you can keep asking yourself those questions on a regular basis, I think you will know that, hey, am I just feeding my ego to be, hey, I'm running a startup, but that startup like blows up in 6 months, which is all right. But if you have not learned from it, then you're not going to go much farther. So I think it's important to really talk to people, experiment more. And if you're lucky enough to really have an interest in a space, go deep into that space. That's going to be very valuable.
Your website mentioned that you have about 6 to 7 patents. Which one are you most proud of and why?
Well, I think those we so some of those patterns were in my early stage in my career in the first 5 years, 7 years, when I was actually building algorithms which are still running in SAP's advanced planning and optimization, which are very detailed technical, allowing customers to shift products from different production lines and then allocating costs. So those things are still running, and large organizations are running on those as well. So I have a real I look at them in a very fond manner, right? That okay, that I was able to be part of that endeavor to build those algorithms. I think the most recent one is more AI driven, recommendation engine part that we were able to build for specific digital interconnections, I think, which is good as well. But yeah, I think the earlier one where actually they have been time tested now, they're already used by customers. I'm proud of those.
Something about you that people have a hard time believing.
Hmm. Oh, ah, that's a good question. Well, I am a very happy-go-lucky kind of a guy in my social circles. So when they hear about that I've written a book, I have had patents as well, they get surprised that, hey, a fun-loving guy could have deep thinking in different areas as well. So that's probably, I would say, it's probably hard for other people to digest.
Awesome. So before we end, the last question I want to ask you is, what advice would you give to the Mashhood who was just beginning out his life?
Well, have fun. And I would give the same advice as I give to the youngsters. Keep learning, keep adding value, and just having fun. I think the one thing is, which is fascinating about today's time is just think about, read history a little bit. This is the best time that to be alive right now, from access to resources, abundant access to opportunities, just like basics, amenities that we all enjoy. It was unfathomable 75 years back or even 100 years back. So um, it's the best time to start a business. It's the best time to learn. You have the knowledge of the world at your fingertips. If you spend time in learning, I think you can do that. Is the best time and easiest to connect with people all across the world, experts that you admire. Reach out to them. They're mostly very helpful in connecting. So I think you have a lot of agency. I will have a lot of agency. Do not get sucked into the doom and gloom news all across. Look for and partner with people. Find your friends who are positive minded, and build. Be the part of the builders who will create the future of the world. So just go and change the world. I mean, you can, and everybody can.
Awesome, lovely to meet you, and looking forward to seeing you on 8th of November with On Our Island Farm 2025.
Absolutely. I can't wait for it. It's an amazing annual forum. You find so many amazing folks, learn from them, connect with them. And I connected with one of my mentors, named Zafar Saab as well, who wrote the foreword for my book as well through the open forum. So I can't speak enough about the amazing community that Open Silicon Valley is and Open Global is. So if you have the opportunity, feel free to you must attend November 8th conference. I'll see you there. Reach out to me, send me a message, or just tap me on my shoulder when I'm there. Looking forward to just having a chat with you guys.
All right, perfect. Take care of yourself. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.